Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor pregame podcast. And this is a big one. Red River Rivalry Week. Say that 5 times fast. It's not very easy to do. But nonetheless, the biggest game in college football is happening in the State Fair of Texas this next weekend. And it's huge. Number 12, Oklahoma versus number 3, Texas. The biggest OU Texas game since 2018, maybe, I would assume.
I think since 2008.
Yeah, 2008 is the number I had. I mean, first time they've been undefeated.
2011 was pretty big. They both came in undefeated.
Yeah,
let's go with 2008. I think it's the first time in a long time that the world of college football and everybody's eyes at 11 a.m. or 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. or 12 noon, depending on your time zone, will all be set to watch the University of Oklahoma take on the Texas Longhorns. And that is huge. Huge. Obviously, this podcast is brought to you by and powered by Olipop. We want to thank them for being a sponsor. Guys, before we get going, I'm looking right around here. I'm in a hospital. So I am finally a girl dad. I don't have my girl dad shirt on like I did on the live, but I do have a dad shirt on today if you're watching on the YouTube, and it says Caden, Kyler, Ava. So my wife had that made for all 3 of the kids. I am now officially that dorky dad that has a shirt with all of his kids' names on it, and I give, excuse my language, no so I don't care. So
hey, I've got 3 shirts like that in my closet, so no shame here.
There you go. Travis, you're up next. All right. All right, yes, baby Ava was born yesterday at 3:42 p.m. at, I believe she was 7 pounds essentially. No, she was 7 pounds, and she was 20.5 inches long. So she was a big, long baby for a girl. So, yeah, pretty happy. No sleep. Sleep deprivation is us right now in this room. Even the baby. It's been something else, but wouldn't trade it for anything else in the world. All right, now back to our regularly scheduled programming called OU Texas. Guys, this matchup is tight. It's close when you look at it from a perspective of positions. And this is how we're going to start this podcast off. I'm going to name the position, and you tell me Oklahoma, Texas, and a quick synopsis why. And I'll start quarterback. I'm going Oklahoma. And last night I struggled with this on the live with Parker. And my reasoning for struggling was because Quinn Ewers is a hell of a quarterback. He is a good quarterback. There's a reason why people have him positioned up as one of the Heisman Trophy candidates. He's a good player. He's lost weight. He runs better. The dude, you do not let him get out of pocket. He will kill you with his feet. That is something, that's a new phenomenon this year. Dude's running. That said, 75% accuracy, and I don't want to hear it. Oklahoma hasn't played anybody. Don't want to hear it. I don't care. 75% is hard to do on air, let alone with somebody covering your wide receiver and people rushing after you. It's hard to do. Like, I don't know what world we live in that you have to be perfect to be considered elite if you're not playing the Alabamas of the world, the Georgias of the world, the Texas, the Oklahomas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, USC, blah, 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 blah. USC, you probably could throw and complete 80% against Grinch's defense. That's neither here nor there. But 75%, bros. Like, how many he has 2 interceptions this year, and how many, what's he got? 15, 17 touchdowns, correct? Something to that extent?
15 passing, 19 total.
19 total because he's got 4 on the run, 4 rushing. I do know that. And he's using these legs this year. Dylan Gabriel, as long as he performs adequately on Saturday, Oklahoma is going to have a chance. They are going to have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
But what say you guys? Quarterback, OU, Texas, and why?
I give the edge to Oklahoma in quarterback. Looking at the numbers, obviously, is one thing. The other thing that I look at, and I know that he missed this game last year. He's seen the environment. He hadn't been on the field for it yet, but I also think that you can't overlook the amount of experience that this guy has. I mean, just at the college level. He went into a hostile environment last year against Nebraska. And look, that game wasn't nearly what this one is they're coming into, but I don't think you can throw that out the window. This guy's seen all kinds of college football. He's one of the most experienced in the country at this point in time, and I think that brings a lot to the table as well. I think the big thing is what he can do stretching the field vertically with what he's got this year. So I give Oklahoma the edge at quarterback.
Yeah, I don't particularly think it's an edge even. I think Oklahoma is decidedly better at quarterback based on what we've seen not only this year, but the last 2 years. I mean, that's what's crazy. I mean, I've never seen a quarterback that got still credit for being a perfectly rated recruit in year 3 of his college football career. I mean, it's truly incredible because he goes to Ohio State. And originally I was like, man, this Quinn dude can spin it after seeing him in high school. And he's got arm talent for sure. But he goes to Ohio State, he sits, right? If you're the number one, one of the best recruits in history, you could probably at least
rookie
crack
of the
the
year
3 deep.
was ahead of him potentially. Rookie of the year in the NFL
The
was
3 deep, Brandon. The 3 deep. You can at least crack the 3 deep.
Yeah.
So he gets there, doesn't crack the 3 deep. He transfers to Texas. Now he's starting. He's a second-year college football player. Now, last year, out of 8 qualifying quarterbacks, so those quarterbacks have to play 75% of the team's games, and they have to have 14 or more passing attempts per game. He was 6th in yards, 6th in passing touchdowns. And a lot of people are going to say, well, he missed some time because he was hurt. Okay, we'll go away from cumulative stats. He was 7th in completion percentage, 3rd in average or adjusted yards per attempt, 4th in yards per attempt, and 5th in rating. There are only 8 quarterbacks that qualified under those qualifications, and he was middle of the road or in the bottom half of all of those statistics. So everybody says, hey, no, well, that was his first year starting. What about this year? All right, out of 12 qualifying quarterbacks this year, 3rd in yards, 5th in passing touchdowns, 3rd in adjusted yards per attempt, 3rd in yards per attempt, 3rd in completion percentage, and 3rd in rating. That's not nationally. That is in the Big 12. So, he gets graded as this, man, the potential. When are we going to see it? He's going to leave after this year. This is a guy that's been in college for 3 years, and he's never going to rank in the top 2 in any meaningful statistic in the Big 12. And you're trying to tell me that this guy is, man, Heisman this, first round that. I mean, I simply don't see it. You brought up the deep ball. Dylan Gabriel, people pick on his deep ball. He's completing 59% of his throws, 13 for 22. On the deep ball, 59%. Quinn Ewers didn't complete 59% of his passes against Wyoming. Quinn Ewers, of course, 4 of 19, 21%. And these are going to be some of the best corners that he sees. And everybody wants to bring up Bama. I get it, man. The Bama game, he played the game of his career. But the inconsistency is mind-boggling. How do you go out and play well against Bama, but complete, 52% of your passes against Wyoming and go 0 for 7 on the deep ball against Rice? Completing, I think, 63% of your passes against Rice? You can talk about Dylan Gabriel's competition all you want. But when Quinn Ewers has been faced with easy opponents at home, he hasn't put them away. So I think the advantage is actually decidedly clear in favor of Oklahoma.
Okay, so we all three say Oklahoma at the quarterback position. And you guys talk about the experience. Did you all know that in games that he's been available to play, Dylan Gabriel has started 42 of of 43 games. And he's thrown 110 touchdown passes in his career, despite missing 11 games during that span due to injury. That's the only player that's played in more games than him right now. Who do y'all think that is at quarterback in college football? And it's by a very slim margin.
Is
2
it Will
games.
Rogers
No,
at Mississippi State?
no. It's a big name.
I know Tate's not playing.
Bo Nix, maybe.
Bo
Nope.
would be a good guess.
Bo. Let me go here real quick and I'll tell you.
How long has Michael Penix been in the league? No.
Bo, let me look here. Bo Nix was brought up in this as well, I believe. Hold on. Is he?
I feel
No,
like one of these
he's
guys
not.
that's transferred from every school. Like
Yeah,
Emory
he has
Jones or somebody like that.
he has transferred. He has transferred recently.
I don't
Let
know.
me just tell y'all.
Daniels. Yeah, go for
Yeah.
it.
Sam Hartman. You guys are gonna kick
Ah.
yourselves. Yep, you're gonna
He
kick
does
yourselves.
look like he's 35. So
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Gabriel also ranks first nationally since the start of 2019 with 12,793 passing yards. Sam Hartman is second with 12,441 in 45 games, which is 2 more than obviously Dylan Gabriel. And Bo Nix is third with 12,303. And he's actually been available 52 games, which is crazy. So Bo Nix was a good guess, just hasn't started as many games as the other two because he was switching off there for a bit at Auburn, and that hindered his starting numbers. All right, running back position. It's Texas. I don't think it's without. I don't even have to say Jonathan Brooks has been an absolute stud for them. Obviously the freshman came in last year out of Orlando, number 1 running back in the country.
Cedric Baxter.
Cedric Baxter has been a very, very good player for them to start. And now Jonathan Brooks looks like he's taken over. Their 1-2 punch is unbelievable. And Oklahoma's looking to just find one. They're just trying to find one dude that can be consistently 5 yards a carry, no matter what. And I know Tawi Walker's averaging over 5 yards a carry. I get it. But if you're Oklahoma, do you want to rely on, this is going to sound like a shot at him, and it's not. Do you want to rely on Tawi Walker the whole season? Maybe this game coming up, he could be something that Oklahoma needs just to get some of that physicality going because he runs with such angst. I mean, he does. He's a powerful human being. I call him Samaje Perine Light, is what I call him. And that's essentially what he is. And Samaje was never going to bust a huge long run of 80 yards. He gets you 60, and he did it several times at Oklahoma. But that 60-yarder, he's looking back about to get caught, right at the goal line. We saw that over and over and over where he was just got there, just enough to cross that goal line standing upright because the defensive back or whoever was catching up to him. But he's also made a big career in the NFL because of his power. And I think Tawi Walker is a slower, less powerful version of Samaje Perine. And I don't think you guys would disagree with that. That said, I think this team, if you're Oklahoma, you need to have somebody step up. And I talked about this on the podcast, on the live last night. And here's my thinking. And you call me, y'all can disagree with me. I'm standing by this. I think Gavin Sawchuk's gonna have his coming out party. I do. And I know I was watching Josh. Dude, I'm on no sleep, guys. So Josh Pate
Pate. Okay, I just didn't know what
Yeah,
Josh
Josh
you were
Pate.
talking
Sorry.
about.
I was watching
Right.
Josh Pate last night talk about Oklahoma, Texas, and he said, "Oh, they're not just gonna have some random guy show up and be great against this Texas defense because they're so good against the run." Okay, that's fair. You can think that. I disagree, and I'm probably going to end up being wrong, and he's probably going to end up being right. Josh Pate's great at his job. This season just reminds me so much of 2017. So much of 2017 as far as the running game goes. And as far as Gavin Sawchuk and Rodney Anderson's, I guess, their story, their journey to get to where they need to be this season. What happened to both of those guys to start the season in 2017 and in 2023? Fall camp issues, hamstring issues. Both looked like they were going to be rising stars coming in. Anderson looked like he was finally going to have his coming out party to start the season in 2017. And about a week or so into fall camp, pull hamstring. Same thing happened to Gavin Sawchuk. Who does Gavin Sawchuk run like? Who does his body frame look like out there? Rodney Anderson. They both have the froey hair. There's just a lot of similarities there. Iowa State was played the game before Texas. It was game 5. Obviously, the outcome was a lot different in 2023 than it was in 2017 when Oklahoma blew a 31-7 lead, or 31-7 lead, and they lost 38-31. It was an awful game for Oklahoma. They didn't even score in the second half. They were completely shut out. That game's the reason why we don't see the All Reds, and we never have, as far as the alts go. And that, I think those are the greatest alternates of all time for Oklahoma, by the way. Those are clean, pristine. Again, Rodney Anderson had a coming out party against Texas that year. Like in the second half, he made that big 25-yard run, dove into the end zone. And the very next week, they have a bye week. Then they go and they play K-State. Well, obviously they're going to Kansas. They're going to go play at Kansas. So same state, right down the road from each other. Just a lot of similarities with the scheduling, with how that's played out. And history always has a tendency to repeat itself, right? Let's see if it happens. That's why I'm calling my shot. I'm just going on a lot of coincidences that have gone through between those two guys' careers. And we'll see. We'll see if it's going to happen. But I think Gavin Sawchuk, you have to have, if you're going to have a Tawi Walker out there or a Marcus Major out there, Gavin Sawchuk has to be your change of pace back. He has to be your change of pace back. But nonetheless, no matter what, Texas still has the better of the two running backs, just from pure production right now.
This episode of the OU Insider Under the Visor podcast is sponsored in part by Caldera Lab. Caldera Lab knows the skincare world is heavily female-driven and has long been the wild, wild west for men. That's why they're making the solution simple, starting with the regimen. The regimen includes 3 products: the Clean Slate, the Base Layer, and the Good. The Clean Slate starts and ends your day. This face wash leaves all skin types refreshed. The Base Layer is your daily moisturizer to hydrate your skin and jumpstart your day full of confidence. And the Good is your go-to multifunctional serum at night that helps your skin look tighter and smoother and helps reduce the visibility of wrinkles and fine lines. Every drop of this serum is packed with 3.4 million antioxidant units protecting your skin. Caldera Lab is the leader in men's skincare, made only with top-tier ingredients, and clinical trials have found 94% of men's skin showed an overall younger-looking appearance after using Caldera Lab for just a few weeks. 1 minute morning and night is all it takes to reduce your wrinkles, fine lines, and signs of aging. So join over 100,000 men who trust Caldera Lab skincare products. Use code OUINSIDER at calderalab.com and get 20% off your first purchase.
Yeah, I would agree. I think both of those guys that Texas is using, Baxter and Brooks, they're a legitimate home run threat. I mean, anytime they touch the ball, there's a chance that they could go. And I hate to call Tawi Walker a plotting back, but that is, I mean, that's he can get you 4 or 5 yards in a cloud of dust. That's what he is, but he's not gonna. I mean, the 60-yarder that got called back last week, I mean, he used every inch of that field to get that 60 yards.
No, yeah, he was zigging and zagging, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was doing everything he could. So, it's I think until a guy from that room emerges, until Gavin Sawchuk becomes what OU fans saw him be in the Cheez-It Bowl last year, and until, the big thing that people seem to forget is Javonte Barnes was supposed to be that guy too, and
Mhm.
we haven't seen anything from him this year. So yeah, going into this game, I think it's pretty decisive in saying that Texas has the advantage at running back right now.
Yeah, I mean, Texas has the advantage. I think it's probably closer than a lot of people would be willing to admit, just because I don't think, like Brooks, yeah, absolutely, put up a big game against Kansas. But I mean, Kansas's defense, I mean, they were on the field for 40 minutes.
That's fair.
Kansas, who was top 10 in the country with Jalen Daniels at converting 3rd and 4th downs, all of a sudden went 0 for 10 on converting 3rd and 4th downs. So Kansas's offense couldn't stay on the field. Texas just leaned on them. It was 13-7 in the 3rd quarter, but they just kept on running Jonathan Brooks at that line. Eventually, Kansas just broke. And so it's a bit inflated, but I do like Jonathan Brooks. I just don't think, like, I'm already getting some, seeing some comparisons to, Bijan's game, against Oklahoma.
Oh
I'm like,
no.
Brooks isn't Bijan. Like, Brooks isn't Bijan. And that's because that's not a knock on Brooks. I think Bijan was the best running back in college football last year, and he's been in the league for 15 minutes and he's already making NFL defenders look silly. So if anything, like, I think Bijan's just on a completely different generational level than what Jonathan Brooks can reach. But all that being said, as far as our running backs go, like, I think if you did a blind, like, halfway through the season, you hadn't watched a game and you just switched Javonte Barnes into Tawee Walker's stat line and saw that he had the longest run, 30 yards, he had the longest run called back of 60 yards, leading the team in carries, yards per carry, all that kind of stuff, people would be like, man, picked up to where we left off. Awesome. But I do think people kind of struggle with Tawee being the guy, right? Because you want to see that guy come through that's the highly ranked kid. That's the Cheez-It Bowl Javonte Barnes. That's the guy that was second on the team in carries last year. But I say all that to say this. I don't think this game sets up well for Tawee at all. I think the interior of the defensive line is the heart of that Texas defense, and they're going to make problems for anybody wanting to run between the tackles. So I think we get outside on this one, which I think lends itself more to Marcus Major, as we've seen, and Gavin Sawchuk, if he's got that burst back, right? So I think while Tawee, to answer your first question, I'm fine with him being the lead back the rest of the way, because just take the name off of the jersey, and I think everybody else would typically be okay with him being the lead back the rest of the year. But I think for this specific matchup, I think Texas's edge players are, and I know we're going different positions, but Texas's edge players are good pass rushers, but I don't think they're great in the run game, not nearly as good as what their interior is. So I think trying to get the ball to the outside favors Gavin Sawchuk, and it favors Marcus Major more so than it does a guy like Tawee Walker this time.
I agree. The interior of Texas defense is where it's at. They also have one of the best interior linebackers in college football on their team. So that lends to say, stay away from the inside if you're Oklahoma. Not very much is going to come from that unless somehow, some way. And plus, I think, again, like you said, that's their strength, is the interior of the defensive line. What's OU's weakness outside of Andrew Rame? Hey, they got to find two dudes on the other side. Andrew Rame's a stud, but they got problems on the inside. But we'll get to that in a second. Wide receiver. This one was really hard for me last night, and mainly because obviously they have the star power at Texas, right? Like, their two dudes are just out of this world good. Fast, athletic, speed. Oklahoma's secondary is going to be tested on Saturday a lot. And I think, when you compound Xavier Worthy with A.D. Mitchell and a couple of the other guys, and I think you can probably throw the tight end there for them as well. Jatavian or JT as well in there for him. If Sanders is healthy, right, you can kind of throw, because he's more of a split out tight end. And I guess if you want to compound it, wide receivers, tight end, you probably definitely would lean towards Texas a little bit. And I think it's probably because Oklahoma's tight end is a lot different. He's more of an inline guy. He's an over the middle pass catcher. They haven't utilized that very much because Dylan Gabriel's height, right? Like, a lot of things are working against Oklahoma's tight end play. And that's where a guy like Devon Mitchell comes in next year in 2024 and changes it because of his athleticism and speed on the outside for his size. So, you're going to have a different quarterback, but nonetheless, I digress. My deal with this is, if you're going with depth, I pick Oklahoma. If you're going with straight production from 2 or 3 big names, JT Sanders, obviously A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, you go with Texas. So am I wrong for calling this a push? Just because Gabriel's going to have his soup of the day, if you will, on Saturday. I don't know who it's going to be. Could be Drake Stoops, could be Kevin Freeman, could be Andrew Anthony, could be Jalil Farouk. Obviously, could be Anderson, could be Jaden Gibson. I don't know who it's going to be because they've spread the wealth so well this year at wide receiver. And I think, again, that has a lot to do with Emmett Jones and his development of the wide receiver room as a whole. And Oklahoma has an added little wrinkle in there at wide receiver now. They've added some speed at the wide receiver room with a couple of transfers, particularly at Brennan Thompson. I mean, look what he did last week. And he's going to be just salivating at the mouth to try and get out there and get his ex-team back. You don't want to play me? You didn't want to play me? Okay, fair. Let's rock. You didn't think I was good enough? I'm going to show you how good I am. See if your dudes can cover me. And I call it a push. And I know that may be a cop-out, but I think they have 3 really big names that are really good players for them at the wide receiver and tight end position. Oklahoma has the depth at wide receiver and tight end. Not so much tight end. They've got, Austin Stogner, and that's about it, right, as far as production goes. But wide receiver, you look down there and there's like a bunch of 200-300-yard receivers going all the way down. Hey, Sooners fans, we would like to thank our new sponsor, Manscaped, who has taken a step away from Halloween to bring your face the cleanest shave it's ever seen. Fellas, let's be honest. No woman wants to see their man throw away their hygiene, right? And all women love a well-manicured face and beard. That's why I ordered the handyman to make sure my neck and beard line looks the best it can all the time for my wife and for these podcasts and OU Insider Lives. So whether you want to look fresh and clean shaved, or you want to have a clean looking, well manicured beard, all you have to do is go get 20% off and free shipping using the promo code OU Insider at manscaped.com. Again, that's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use promo code OU Insider. For a look as sweet as candy, get yourself a handyman from manscaped.com.
Yeah. The way that if I was to look at this, so for Texas, you've got Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, you've got Jonte Cook, Jordan Whittington, and then Jatavian Sanders. If you take those 5 and you put those up against Angelo Anthony, Nick Anderson, Jaden Gibson, Jalil Farouk, and Stogner, I think if you just take those 5 strictly, I lean Texas, but it's a lot slighter than you would think. The way that these guys are talked about nationally, you know, you would think that Xavier Worthy's never dropped a football in his life, and he's had some issues with that. And of course, I'm not going to take anything away from what Adonai Mitchell has been for Texas this year. He's been fantastic. That is definitely a guy when you talk about speed and strength and size and having a good catch radius. I mean, that guy's got it all. That's an NFL receiver. But I also think that Nick Anderson is becoming that kind of guy for Oklahoma. So I'm going to lean Texas at wide receiver at pass catchers, but I do think it's closer. And I want to throw in a little bonus here. While that may be the case now, I do feel really good about where Oklahoma is headed as it heads into the SEC with pass catchers, because the next group of guys that's coming in on top of what they've already got, the guys that are emerging right now, this could be something that Oklahoma has the advantage of going into next year.
Yeah. Pat, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say they've only got Jordan Whittington and Jonte Cook have barely. I think Jonte Cook's got like 106 total yards, and I think Whittington's got like 143 total yards. I think when you compare Oklahoma to that, and you look at their stats as far as like just individual production, it seems as if, Oklahoma, like I said, it feels like it's deeper. I mean, Oklahoma's got here. I'm going to read their stats for the season. Okay. This is Oklahoma stats. You've got 5, you name the 5 guys, right? For Texas. Whittington has 143 total yards. I believe that's what I just looked at. Let me look at it again to make sure. Whittington has 142 total yards this year, and Jonte Cook only had 106. I don't know what Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell have, but I'm going to assume it's close to 200, 400 yards each, right? That's my guess. Y'all would have to look that up for me while I'm doing this. But in comparison, Andrew Anthony, 387 yards. Jalil Farouk, 285. Nick Anderson, 279. Drake Stoops, 203. Jaden Gibson, 159. Then it finally drops below 100. And that's Brennan Thompson, who has 2 catches for 62 yards. So, he's going to get caught up with Jonte Cook and Whittington. And I think that goes to show, I think that leads more to the quarterback room being stronger than most people think.
Yeah.
Look at how good he's spreading the wealth throughout. He's finding open dudes. No forcing. That's why he only got 2 interceptions. Anyways, Travis, go ahead. I'm on no sleep, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm just dragging here.
So pass catchers, if Jatavian Sanders was healthy, I would give Texas the pretty decided edge. But I don't think he's anywhere close to it because he's so big in their offense. So essentially, Brandon, you touched on the depth. You reiterated the depth, I should say. It's really, if you take Jatavian out, you've really got A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy is really what you've got from a production standpoint there. And to your point, the names you just read off, we can get it coming and going, man. We can get it however we want it. You want speed, we got world-class track speed. We got 10-2-2-100 speed. You want size, we got 6'5" and 6'4" that we can throw out there at the same time. We've just got far more versatility that will force you into doing different things on the back end of your defense that, like I said, Jatavian Sanders, if he's healthy, the edge is Texas. But I give the edge to Oklahoma simply because I have so much respect for Jatavian Sanders, and I just don't think he's healthy. So give the edge to Oklahoma. And again, I hate to be so complimentary of Texas players, but JT Sanders and Bijan Robinson, I hold them at such a level that with them obviously one's in the NFL and one's hurt. That's why it drops, because I feel I have so much respect for those guys. So this isn't just like I'm going to pick OU in all these. I picked Texas for the running backs. I'm going to pick OU in all these. No, like, I think legitimately we cause more matchup problems than their top 2 receivers do, just across the board. Like, if you go 3-4 wide, even, like, I think there's a massive drop off for Texas after AD Mitchell and Xavier Worthy. Whereas I think we have comparable to those two from a production standpoint, and then just our 3rd and 4th are so much better.
All right. Real quickly, we're going to go to our sponsors, Caldera Labs and Manscaped, for this week's podcast. Obviously, we want to thank them for being a sponsor. So we're going to go to them real quick, guys, and then we will finish up this talk of the pregame podcast for Red River Rivalry. All right, we're back. Okay, you just touched on it, and I want to say that I tend to agree with a lot of the depth issues. So I found this interesting. We talked about the stats, right, for the Oklahoma players, correct, just a second ago, and it was interesting. Again, I'll reiterate it: 387 for Andrew Anthony, 285 for Farouk, 279 for Nick Anderson, 203 for Drake Stoops, 159 for Gibson, and Brennan Thompson was 62 yards. How many yards do you think AD Mitchell has this year? Any guesses?
I've got to pull out of this
250.
answer because I've looked it up.
How many?
250. I don't know.
321. How many do you think Xavier Worthy has?
I played
Slightly above that.
345. Correct. You've looked it up, Travis, you cheater.
I didn't look that one up.
Okay, then that's a really good guess. How many do you think that Jatavian Sanders has?
He probably is closer to Worthy.
Correct. He's at 250. He's at 278. So Oklahoma has 3 guys with more than Sanders. And they have obviously just 1 guy more than Worthy and Mitchell, but at the same time, they're not that far off, 279, 285. So that I find that stuff really interesting, guys. I find it interesting, and it kind of goes to what were you saying about the deep ball for Quinn Ewers earlier, Brian?
Yeah, he's completed 4 of 19 on the year. He's got 4 completions over 20 yards. So I mean, his PFF rating is like I believe like a 51.7 or I mean on deep balls. Now 10 to 19 yards, he's elite. He's an 89.1. He's been really, really good in the intermediate, but as far as getting the ball downfield, they've struggled. So, he hit 2 really big deep balls against Alabama. And if they don't hit those, they probably don't win that football game. I mean, just being real. I mean, he dropped whatever that pass that he threw to Xavier Worthy that just dropped from the heavens for a touchdown against Bama was huge. But I mean, outside of that game, he just hasn't been able to. It's really hard to use Xavier Worthy if you can't get the ball to him downfield. Because what's he known for? What's he good at? He's good at stretching the field.
Yeah.
That's his top asset. So, I think I think it speaks to the strength of Oklahoma's quarterback room versus, what yours brings to Texas.
All right. Offensive line, I'm going to go with Texas. And it has nothing to do. I think OU has a better pass blocking offensive line. I think the stats show that. How many times has Ewers been sacked this year? Brian, you probably know this off quickly. What is
9.
it?
I think they've given up 9 sacks.
And how many has Oklahoma given up? What? 3, 4, 5?
Yeah, they're second in the Big 12 in least amount of sacks behind Iowa.
So I stand by my statement. I think Oklahoma has a better pass blocking offensive line. I still think Texas's offensive line and pass blocking is more than adequate to almost really good. Run blocking, though, it's the stratosphere is stark difference right now. Oklahoma is averaging like 4.2 yards a carry right now, and I believe Texas is averaging almost 6. So you look at that and you go, well, one thing doesn't quite look like the other. One is really good at pass blocking, great at run blocking, and one is okay at run blocking, excellent at pass blocking. I'm going to go with the one that's more consistent with both. So I'm going with Texas. Oklahoma needs to find their guards. They've got to find their 2 guards. If they can do that, it's a gravy train the rest of the year because the O-line is going to be special. But they got to find those 2 guards. I almost did that when I said 2, by the way, and that would have been awful on this podcast for you guys. I'm sorry. Like it's old baseball in me when you go 2 outs, and you yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm actually, this is the one that I was going to go push on. I think it's a lot closer than people. Yeah, I think it's a lot closer than people realize. Like I said, outside of the Kansas game, Texas has been very, very similar to what Oklahoma has done in the running game, and I think that's probably more of a product of who Texas has played at this point. I think the Alabama front 7 is as good as anybody in the country. And I believe Texas leading rusher in that game had 57 yards or something to that measure. So, reason I'm saying this, from what I've seen on film, what I've watched back 4 of Texas's 5 games to this point. Their run blocking schemes are very similar to what Oklahoma runs. They run a lot of pin pull. They run a lot of split zone, things of that nature. And they find success at times, but a lot of their plays have been stymied at the line of scrimmage. And it kind of resembles what I've seen from Oklahoma at this point. And I think the reason that I'm giving this a push is Kelvin Banks is supposed to be the best offensive tackle coming into this game. I really, to be completely honest with you, he struggled against Kansas. He really struggled against
Tyler
Kansas.
Guyton may have something to say about that, bro.
That's 100%. That's who I believe is the top tackle coming into this game is Tyler Guyton. I don't think it's particularly close at this point. So, I think Texas has, if Cole Hudson was available, coming into this game for Texas, I think that might have me lean the other way. But I think that their interior is very similar to what Oklahoma's dealing with, and I think that Oklahoma's tackles are a little bit better at this point than what Texas has shown. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this a push. I think it's really close.
Go ahead and ride with
Yeah,
BB, bro. Go ahead and ride with it, Travis.
No, I think Texas has a higher ceiling. I think if Texas, if all of their offensive linemen that are available play to the best of their ability, I think they end up, winning this matchup, at least between the 2 offensive linemen. But you're right, Kelvin Banks. If this was 2022 Kelvin Banks, I probably would have had a 9-second answer probably. But he has not been himself. I mean, he came into the year, I thought he was going to be a top 5 pick. Now he still might be. He's young, so he's got a lot of time. He's got a lot of potential, all that. But yeah, he hasn't played particularly well. I think the interior, specifically us trying to figure out that left guard spot, and still, Troy Everett played all 75 snaps last week. Like, is that size-wise your best option, specifically against this defensive line? Like, you've got a bigger body in Caden Green that doesn't have the experience. You've got Savion that's coming back from being hurt and has been kind of inconsistent this year. So, like, until that specific position gets shored up consistently, then I'm probably leaning just slightly Texas here, just because I think if they put it together for a game, then they have the edge. No matter how well I think Oklahoma puts it together, if you will. So that's what I'm going with.
I mean,
And they've
there
got
you
5
go.
stars. They've got like 3 5-stars on their offensive line. Like that Pancake Factory NIL deal came just at the right time.
Yeah. Let's talk about sorry, baby girl's having a little problem over there. Let's talk about the defensive line. I'm gonna go ahead and take I'm gonna say I think I said Texas because I thought the interior defensive line for Texas was better than Oklahoma's interior defensive line right now. And I don't want to sit here and say that OU's interior defensive line isn't good because I think it is. I think the addition of Dejon Terry, the play of Grayson Halton, Isaiah Coe's having a good year. Jordan Kelly's having a really good year. I think the depth, obviously, Lacey has been good for Oklahoma. I think the depth Oklahoma has is good, but it's a bunch of adequate guys that are good players, not great. There's no elite guy. Dejon Terry is close to elite, and I think Grayson Halton, by the time he gets done playing at Oklahoma, will be an elite player. He's a baby though right now. This is year one for him as far as actually getting out there and consistently playing for the University of Oklahoma. So where I had Oklahoma tipping the scale, however, was if I put how good Texas's interior defensive line is and I pit it up against Oklahoma's defensive ends, which one would be the better position? And I don't think it's a question that Oklahoma's defensive ends are far and away better than Texas's interior. Maybe I'm crazy, but Oklahoma is one of the top schools in QB hurries. They haven't connected on a lot of sacks this year. It's been a lot of over-aggression that's caused that. It has nothing to do with the lack of pressure. They're getting to the quarterback. That is not. You want to know how I know they're getting to the quarterback? Oklahoma leads the nation in interceptions. You don't lead the nation in interceptions without rushing the quarterback to make bad decisions. You don't have one without the other. You have to have the defensive line to help force those interceptions. They don't just miraculously happen. Quarterbacks just don't play catch with the other team just by default. They're college quarterbacks. They're good. Regardless of the comparison of who they're playing against or the level that they were good enough to be a college quarterback. They're not playing catch with Oklahoma on purpose. They're getting rushed into those decisions. So I think if Oklahoma can pin their ears back on the edge, they're going to cause problem with viewers. They are. I'm telling you, Texas fans, if you're watching, watch PJ Adebawore, and guess what? Oklahoma gets their best edge rusher back this week. He's fully healthy for the first time all season. R. Mason Thomas. If you don't think, and I tweeted about this last against Iowa State, R. Mason Thomas and PJ Adebawore came in there and together for the first time all year. That was the first time both of them were in. It was a 3rd and long. What happened? Sack. So it was sack.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm muted.
Sack. And it was fast. And if you don't think that's not going to be a regular occurrence throughout this season, and if you don't think Quinn Ewers isn't going to look over there and see 32 and 34 and go, I got to get this son of a gun out quick, you're wrong. You're wrong. So look, let's call it what it is. I'm going to give Oklahoma the edge at the defensive line because they're stronger at defensive end with PJ, with R. Mason Thomas, Ethan Downs, Rondell Bothroyd. Obviously, Reggie Grimes has played better this year. He may not have the sacks that he did last year, but he's played more consistent. And then Marcus Stripling's played really well. And obviously I'm forgetting somebody. I know I am. 30 for Oklahoma.
Trace Ford.
Trace Ford. See, man, I'm folks, I'm so sorry. I'm sleep deprived. I can't even think straight right now. Trace Ford. They rotate all 7 of them, by the way. All of them play. Keeps them fresh, keeps them ready to get to the backfield. That's why I think PJ has, I think the percentage of QB hurries, I think is tops, right? Like it's insane. Like snaps per QB hurries. That's why I have Oklahoma's defensive line better. Now, don't get it twisted, OU fans. Texas defensive front is nasty, and they're good. And their interior defensive line is insanely talented. So don't get cocky off of the statements I just made. Just understand that both are really good defensive lines. I just think Oklahoma has played more consistent up front this year between the pass and the run game, and that's why I give them the edge.
All right, so I'll try and keep this fairly short. But there's one guy out of both of these defensive interiors that could be a top 2 round, a second round draft pick in this draft, and it's Devondre Swift. The guy's a stud. He's 362 pounds. He moves in a way that somebody that weighs that much should not be able to move. He's extremely athletic at his size, and the guy can go. But for what it's worth, I believe that that's the only elite guy, the only truly elite guy on either of these defensive lines. And so, as far as interior, now don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that PJ is not going to be something in the future. I'm talking about right now. Oklahoma has 84 total pressures on the year, 112 total pressures, 84 hurries. Texas has 98 total pressures and 70 total hurries. So, the thing that sticks out to me, though, the most when you're looking at these two, you get down to the 5th best pass rusher on Texas's team per PFF, and you hit 69. You hit a grade of 69. Does anybody want to guess how far you have to go down the list on Oklahoma's pass rush list before you get that same grade?
11.
2.
11. That's right.
I don't know. I just guessed because I
nailed it.
How did you guess that? Did you already look it up?
No, I just knew it probably had to be a bunch. I don't have any of the PFF stuff.
He nailed it. I mean, again,
you need to go play the lottery, bro.
As far as depth goes on the defensive line, yeah, I think it's Oklahoma. And in a game like this, where it's going to be extremely physical, it may not be as hot this year as it typically is, but it's going to be physical. It always is. When you can roll fresh bodies in like that and keep the same level of intensity and the same level of success out there, I think that pays dividends. So I'm going to give Oklahoma the edge here, just simply for the fact is I think they've got more guys that can get it done than Texas does.
It feels weird giving Oklahoma edges due to depth when you consider how Texas has recruited, especially in the trenches. That feels really weird. But, especially with the portal additions that we've made on the defensive line, I mean, it's night and day from last year, right? So the interior of the defensive line, you got to give the top end talent, again, edge to Texas. And I'm glad that he brought up depth specifically as it was to the physicality. I think Oklahoma gets side to side in this game, a lot of bubble screens, a lot of outside runs, everything to get those big fellas trying to run side to side, side to side, side to side, and get those guys worn out. Because while they have talent on the edge, Texas does, it's very young talent, right? Colin Simmons obviously jumps to mind. So our talent is young too, for sure. But we just have more depth of it, right? Like when you get Colin Simmons out there, it's like we're excited about PJ, they're excited about Colin, but by the way, we've got R. Mason Thomas and Trace Ford and Ethan Downs and Rondo Bothroyd and all these guys we can go over and over. Marcus Stripling, we can go over and over. But I think OU's depth again gives them the edge in this, and I think Texas's defensive line can be schemed around easier than Oklahoma's can, and the numbers bear it out. So if nothing else, I'm just going by the facts and the data.
Yeah, that's interesting that through all of that and everything that Texas has done on the recruiting trail, that Oklahoma still, even stats, facts, data, it still looks in OU's favor, like you said. I think, and I think you noted it, didn't you? I think it's the transfer portal more than anything that's been the biggest help to Oklahoma. Now, 2024 class is going to completely change that and flip everything upside down for Oklahoma on the defensive line, but that's a story for another day. Linebacker, again, Jalen Ford, Danny Stutzman. You're going to have the two best players on the field across the board, both teams, and they play the same position. Where I think it gets interesting, and why I picked Oklahoma as the better linebacking core. Look at Danny Stutzman's stat line this year. Like, everybody picked Jalen Ford to be the guy, defensive player, preseason defensive player of the year, right? And he's had a good season. Don't get me wrong. But let's do the comparisons. Jalen Ford has 32 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, and that's his stat line. Danny Stutzman, 49 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, a pick 6, and 2 sacks. Not only that, he has a pass deflection and a fumble recovery on the season. Then you go over to Texas's other top linebacker, and I guess you would have to say that is David Benda. Is that how you would say it? Is that how you pronounce it? Benda? The G silent, right? Yeah.
I think.
25 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 1.5 sacks. That's his stat line. Let's go to Jaren Canick's. 22 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a sack, 2 pass deflections, and a forced fumble. Again, to me, I'm picking Oklahoma's linebacking core here. And before I went and deep dived into all this the other day, I was like, dude, Jalen Ford and whoever they have has to be more. I knew Danny was going to have the best stat line out of everybody in the country. His stat line is just insane this year. But I did not envision Jaren Canick. I think we note his mistakes because Stutzman's played so good this year that we note everything Jaren Canick does wrong because Stutzman's not doing those things wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's magnified, right? So I went in that a little blinded, and I think it's overwhelmingly Oklahoma with the better linebacking core, particularly when you look at the depth too. Kip Lewis, Kobe McKenzie, Lewis Carter, and then you got Deshaun McCullough sitting there at the Cheetah linebacker spot. Come on now. Not even close. Go ahead. Travis, go. Okay, Brian.
Yeah. Like Travis can go if he wants to. If you've got something right off the bat. Yeah. Well, I kind of looked at it the same way that you did. Danny Stutzman versus Jalen Ford. Stutzman's getting the edge there. As far as this year goes, last year Jalen Ford was terrific, and I think this is a case where maybe he's off to a little bit slower start. But I would say I think this is really close. I'm going to still give the edge to Oklahoma slightly, but I think this is really close because it's a very similar situation. You've got one guy that's running everything, and then you've got some younger guys stepping into a position where that they've got to step up and become they've really got to try and play catch up with that guy. And so I think this is close. I think they're going into this very similar, but I think Danny Stutzman has been a game breaker. He's been somebody that can change. He can change a game on his own, and I don't think I haven't seen that as much from Jalen Ford yet this year. So I'm going to say Oklahoma takes it slightly. Just because it's a very similar situation, but Danny's got a higher ceiling.
Yep. Oklahoma takes this because I'm including Deshaun McCullough in with the linebackers. He plays Cheetah, but in he leans when he's on the field versus a Peyton Bowen or a Kendall Dolby or anything like that. Like if he's in the game, he's playing the linebacker side, like the Sam linebacker version of the cheetah as opposed to the nickel version of the cheetah. So I'm going to count him as a linebacker, and that's what gives us the edge. You guys have covered the rest of the points.
All right. Secondary, Oklahoma. I don't even have to say. They lead the nation in interceptions, guys. They lead the nation in interceptions. When you go and you look at the defensive stats real quickly, Peyton Bowen has 4 pass deflections. He doesn't have an interception yet. But interception-wise, Oklahoma has 2 guys. Key Lawrence has 2 interceptions. Gentry Williams 2, Billy Bowman 2, Kendall Dolby 1, Trace Ford 1, Danny Stutzman 1. Pass deflections, Stutzman 1, Kanik 2, Peyton Bowen 4, Woody Washington 1, Kenai Walker 1, Bowman, Deshaun McCullough, and Kobe McKenzie each have 1. I don't think it's close, guys. Texas only has 5 interceptions this year, 2 from a linebacker. Is Jade Brown? Is he? Yeah, he's a DB. So 2 from a linebacker, and then 3 others from Jade Brown and Jaron Thompson. I mean, it's pretty simple to me. Pass deflection wise, they only have 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's not even close. It's not close, guys. OU secondary, by far. Just OU secondary. I'm done. It was easy. I'm done.
I would feel a lot more confident about what Texas has if Ryan Watts was 100% coming into this one, because I do think the guy that's the guy you need to be available when you've got somebody like Nick Anderson that's emerging for Oklahoma. He gives them a really good corner to cover guys with a little more size. He's big for his size, but he's coming into with a leg injury as well. And yeah, I mean, one of the plays that stuck out to me last week was Katon Crawford just getting run. I mean, he got run right past it was just a simple post. He just he didn't get his hips turned in time, and the guy just blew right past him for a long touchdown. And
it means he didn't process it quick enough.
Right. Well, right. And outside of, which I explained on the earlier episode of Field Vision this week, the 2 pass plays that Oklahoma gave up against Iowa State, it was like, it wasn't that guys didn't know what was going on. It was just, it just so happened to be 2 fluke plays just back to back. I mean, on back-to-back occurrences. So just a weird thing, but I do feel like Oklahoma has a better propensity to lock things down in the secondary. So I'm giving them the edge in this one.
Yeah, secondary's got the edge. I'm glad you brought up former Oklahoma commit Ryan Watts, the 6'3" corner. Obviously was committed to the Sooners before going to Ohio State and then finding his way back into the Red River shootout. But yeah, behind him, just in the corners, if he can't go, I think this injury is equally as important to the Jatavion Sanders injury, simply because their secondary has no answer for Gibson and Anderson if in the red zone specifically. And you throw it up to those guys. I mean, the 2 people behind, and I know you can flip corners, but the 2 people behind Ryan Watts on the week 1 depth chart for Texas were both true freshmen. And neither of them taller than 6 foot. Again, the height issues, they don't have a big corner out there, right? So when you look at taking away Ryan Watts, even if he's not healthy, the last thing you want to do with a lower body injury, as it's been reported, last thing you want to do with a lower body injury is try and run with Nick Anderson. I mean, that's tough. So like that's where I think the biggest difference is Gentry can run with any receiver. Woody has had a solid year because we haven't heard his name at all. You've got Kenai Walker. We'll see what he's like. I think he'll play. Again, you can put Kendall Dolby out there. You've got Makari Vickers that's gotten a lot of good snaps. It's got good size. So you've got size and
Jacoby
speed
Johnson.
kind of at your disposal, where Texas is losing really their best corner, really, or they're one that's most suited to match up with the true matchup issues that can be caused by our big guys. Again, specifically in the red zone, because again, between the 20s, it's all about scheme for the most part. That's why you see Iowa State play really good defense in between the 20s, but when you have to win one-on-one matchups, they're not great in the red zone. Cincinnati struggled in the red zone. They can't win one-on-one matchups. Texas struggles in the red zone because you have to win one-on-one matchups, and Sark can scheme anybody open. But once everything gets, compacted in there in the red zone, you've got to win one-on-one matchups. So I like our defensive backs to win one-on-one matchups, and I like our receivers to win one-on-one matchups, specifically in the red zone.
Yeah, I thought it was really smart, guys, when Oklahoma decided the first 3 games of the year before they got into conference play to give the amount of reps that they gave to Jacoby Johnson, to Makari Vickers, and Kenai Walker, and Kendall Dolby. Even though Kendall Dolby is more of a cheetah at this point than he is a corner, but nonetheless, you gave them solid reps in meaningful moments. That way, if they have to get thrown, you don't want them to, but if they have to get thrown out there into the fire against Texas, you're going to be okay with it. Like, you feel better about the decision than you would if they're going in cold, having never really played a meaningful snap in a college football game. So, I mean, I think the interesting thing is going to be, I talked to a source the other day about this. They think Jacoby Johnson's going to get more and more reps as the season moves along. They feel like he's starting to really prove himself in practice, and they think his size and his speed, he clocked the fastest during the off season than anybody else on the team. When they tested the speed and the miles per hour, I think he went something like 22.7 or something like that. Something insane. So he's got it, and he's 6'3", 200 pounds. That is a large corner. A large corner. He's built like a safety. So you add him to an already stacked position, and things start to look really good, particularly at the corner spot. And then safety is they're so good at safety right now. It's a really good position for Oklahoma. All right, real quickly, score predictions. I'll let you two go first. Score predictions and why, and then we'll close it out with a little recruiting talk and be done with the pregame podcast. All right, Travis, go first.
All right. I have this one, I believe, hitting the over. 38-28 Sooners. I think OU hits on some deep stuff. I think they are efficient in the red zone. I think one thing that Brent Venables touched on, specifically with like what OU needed to do better, they put a really big emphasis on P and 10, right? Brent Venables always has his weird stats, right? Well, he said if you look at P and 10, that can determine the outcome of a game, right? Is who was best on P and 10. Well, P and 10, of course, for the for the more casual observers, is possession in 10. What do you do with your first and 10 of a possession? Well, where we really busted it open last week against Iowa State, we had 6 first half possessions. We went Dylan to Andrew for 16 yards on the first one. We went Gavin Sawchuk with a 7-yard run on the second one. The third one, Marcus Major went for no gain, but the next play was that deep bomb to Brennan Thompson. And then next we went Dylan to Jaleel for 8 yards. Marcus Major had the face mask penalty for 15 yards, and then Drake Stoops run for 13 yards in that. So in the first half, we had 3 first downs on P and 10. We had 1 get stopped, but then we hit a deep shot on the next shot, and then the other one first down by penalty. So when you can consistently get that, and 2 were in second short. If you can consistently get that, against Iowa State's defense, which is a good defense. I think that's going to continue to be a point of emphasis. So I think we're going to be successful on drives. That's why I think 38-28.
I'm going 33-31 Sooners. I think this game is going to be I think this is one of those classic Red River rivalry games that everybody's sitting around to the last second, and it's going to be, not the barn burner that we've kind of grown used to over the last several years, throwing last year out. We've seen a lot of really, really high scoring games. And I think what it comes down to is I know the stats that Texas's defense brings coming into this game. We've all seen it. As good as Alabama might be defensively, they don't even touch anything that Oklahoma's done offensively this year under Jalen Milroe. They just don't. And I think that what Texas has faced offensively to this point, I don't think it prepares them well for what Oklahoma likes to do, pushing the ball down the field. And I think this is going to be one of those situations where Oklahoma's going to face a light box potentially for the first time this year. And I think that's going to open up some things in the running game for guys like Gavin Sawchuk to maybe emerge a little bit. And then on the other side of the ball, Texas, the way that Texas plays, I think it kind of feeds right into what Oklahoma does. Defensively, the secondary's been really good. The pass rush has been good. And the key to this game is going to be Texas getting or Oklahoma getting pressure. And I think there's not a better mind in college football when it comes to disguising pressure than what Brent Venables has done over the years. And so I think Oklahoma in the end, I think they've got better pieces. And I think this is going to be really where Oklahoma officially puts the nightmare of last year behind them, and people start talking about what Brent Venables is building here in Norman.
Travis, do you have a disco going on in your room?
No, it's just my projector's on.
Okay. I was like, what?
I thought a fire alarm or something was going on.
I know. I was like, whoa, dude, Travis is getting crunk in there, bro. Like, that's awesome. All right. I believe I have 28-24 Oklahoma. I have it higher scoring. I think it was 31-34 Texas to start the week. But the more I dissected the game, the more I dissected the matchups, it started to lend itself to be a more Oklahoma advantage, because you have to throw in. You have to. And I understand that Texas, when they've been ranked or favored over the last five times, they've won, right? I think, or they've won 4 of the last 5, something to that extent, when being favored. I get it. But after that 49-0 loss, there's something to be said for retribution, for retaliation, for a comeback, for a more of a, I guess, attitude coming into the ball game that I think Oklahoma is going to have in comparison to Texas. And here's why. I think that Texas is hearing how great they are. All week, national pundits, Texas is going to do this against Oklahoma. Oklahoma doesn't deserve to be ranked as high as they are. They're the most overrated team. They haven't played anybody. Talking to you, Brandon Walker. They suck. They're horrible. They only beat Cincinnati by 14. They struggle against SMU. Look, that's box score watching, Brandon Walker. He didn't watch the game, because if he watched both of those games, he would know that OU shot themselves in the foot multiple times inside the red zone. And those games should have been much more of a gap between. It should have been more like 42-11 instead of 28-11 versus SMU. And it's going to be, it should have been 34-6 Oklahoma against Cincinnati. They choked that stuff away inside the red zone twice. You can't do that against Texas, or you're going to lose the ball game. And I don't think Oklahoma will. I think they're going to turn the ball over. I do. I think Oklahoma will turn the ball over once or twice, but I think Oklahoma is going to make Texas turn the ball over once or twice. So at the end of the day, 28-24 Oklahoma. I think Dylan Gabriel becomes the talk of. I think he gets retribution against not only national pundits, but I think Oklahoma fans that have been doubting him for the longest time. This is the week that it takes place, and finally, people are going to be on the side of Dylan Gabriel at the end of the day. And I think, again, Gavin Sawchuk has a big day, and I think a guy like Nick Anderson or Angelo Anthony, somebody, and I think Peyton Bowen gets his. I said it every week. Odds are I'm going to be right. He's going to get his first pick, and it's going to be against Texas. Mark it down right here, right now. All right. Real quickly, Oklahoma trying to close in on Eddie Pierre-Louis. They're trying to close in on Michael Boganowski. They just offered Reggie Powers, going to be visiting for the UCF game on October 21st. Eddie Pierre-Louis should be coming in on October 21st as well if things stay as they are. So, and I don't know if he's going to decide anytime soon or anything like that, but things are trending really well for him with Oklahoma. He's a 4-star offensive lineman out of Tampa. Michael Boganowski, 4-star athlete, recruited as a safety at Oklahoma. K-State, OU, Kansas, Florida State. Those are his top teams. I favor Oklahoma right now. I think Oklahoma's been trending behind the scenes a little bit, but location. K-State is not done trying to persuade Boganowski. So until he decides, that's up in the air. That said, I do think by Halloween, there's a chance you have a decision there. I feel it. I feel it. I've heard some things. I've been told some things. Things seem to be trending of them trying to get done with the situation and the recruitment. And they're trying very diligently to have this thing done by October 31st. And I wouldn't be shocked if it happened earlier in October, but just something to watch. And I do think K-State, Oklahoma, battling it out, throwing haymakers at each other. And right now, Oklahoma has K-State on the ropes, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. We'll see how it turns out. So I think at the end of the day, I think he'll pick Oklahoma, but that's my gut feeling. Nothing that I know 100% other than my gut feeling on things. Grant Bricks, we don't know. I favor Oklahoma. I just can't imagine picking Nebraska at this point. It just would seem very, very hard to do. I don't know that they make a bowl this season. And if Oklahoma ends up 11-2, 12-1, 10-3, something to that extent at the end of the year after a bowl game, how could you not pick Oklahoma? They're trending up after 6-7 last year, whereas Nebraska seems to be staying the same, not going anywhere, even with the new staff. So there's that. And then obviously, don't be shocked if Williams Nwaneri shows up on campus at some point this season. That is not over. They're trying to get him down. I wouldn't be shocked if it was UCF. And I have no clue. I haven't heard anything. I swear, would put my hand on the Bible. I have not heard anything. Just seems like that date is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, does it not? Throughout everything that we continue to hear in the recruiting world, October 21st could be one massive visit weekend for Oklahoma. We'll see how it turns out. I think Oklahoma's trying to make that a night game. We'll see. Outside of that, it's a big weekend. There'll be a lot of OU targets in Dallas this weekend. Our Orange Bloods guys are the ones getting the list, and we'll try to get it from them because Texas is hosting this season. We'll have it up on OU Insider. If not an OU Insider member, this is the time to do it, because if you sign up now, between now and kickoff on Saturday, you get OU Insider free till the end of the regular season. That means all the way through to December, whatever, Big 12 title game, whatever, you get it for free. That means you get the coverage of all the recruiting, and we suspect October is going to be a massive, massive month for Oklahoma. If I set the line at 3.5, I take the over on commits between 25, 24, 26. I take the over, and to be in the know on all that, and the guys that we think are going to end up committing before the month's out, you got to be on OU Insider. Go to OU Insider, sign up right now, type in the promo code Red River 23, and you get it free until December. Free until December, the end of the regular season. OU Insider, type in the promo code Red River 23 and you get it free. You get Travis, Brian, me, Jesse, Parker, all of our notes, all of our write-ups, everything for free on OUinsider.com using the promo code Red River 23. All right, that's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor pregame podcast, Red River style. All three of us picked Oklahoma. We'll see if we're shunned after the game or not. We'll find out. All right. For Travis Davidson, for Brian Clinton, my name is Brandon Drum. You guys have a blessed day.